demonstrates how to write if statements using numeric values and strings. So we're just going to write a few methods. I encourage you to follow along with me in JES. We're going to write a few functions. And so this first one is just going to be passed a numeric value, temperature. So we're just going to write a function, what to where, and we're going to pass it a temperature value. So this is a numeric variable, and what we want to know is if it's warm we're going to wear shorts, if it's not we're going to wear pants. So super simple. So we want to say if temp, that is this parameter that we passed in or that we're going to pass in when we call it, is greater than 70, colon, remember just like on the end of a loop or your method or your function header, you always put a colon and then indent any code that you want to execute if the condition is true. So if the temperature is greater than 70, I want to print wear shorts. So, and I could continue if there were 3 or 4 or 10 things that I wanted to do if that condition is true. As long as I indent inside the if statement, then it'll execute if the condition is true. And then I don't have to have an else part, but I can. And if I have an else, then what happens is if the condition is false, then it's going to do this second set of statements. Or in this case, I'm just going to say print wear long pants. So the way this works is if the temp is greater than 70, it's going to print wear shorts. Otherwise, it's going to print wear long pants. And then I'll say at the end, print get some exercise outside. And that's going to print after the if statement, regardless of whether it was true or false. So anything I do before or after behaves just like normal. It'll execute. So I'm going to load the program. And I'm going to save it as if examples.py. And then I'm going to go ahead and test this, what to where, and I'll pass it a value greater than 70 first. So I'll say 85. And I didn't load my program. Don't forget to do that. And it's going to say wear shorts, get some exercise. So the if condition was true, so it executed that statement and it skipped the wear long pants. Now I'm going to hit the up arrow here and call it again. If I call it and pass it 55, it's going to say wear long pants. And if I pass it exactly 70, it's also going to say wear long pants because that says greater than 70. If I wanted it to be greater than or equal to, I can just put an equal sign in here. So that's just a simple if statement. So let's do another example. We'll do another one with temperature. And in this case, we're going to use a nested else if statement. So we want to check more than one condition. So in this case, what we'd like to do is we want to determine what sport to play based on the temperature again. And so here I'm going to say if temp is greater than or equal to 85 degrees, then I want to print swim. Else if, and the way you do an else if in Python is it's ELIF, and you'll know that it's correct if it turns blue. If you were to type else if, for example, it doesn't turn blue, so it's not a reserved word in the language. So elif temp is greater than or equal to 70, then print play golf. And I should say this condition is only going to be tested if the first one fails. So if the temperature isn't greater than or equal to 85, then it will check and see if it's greater than or equal to 70. And again, I could do more than one thing. As long as I indent, it would do all of those conditions. Then I can say if temp is greater than or equal to 35, print hike, and I could keep going like this. And then in the end, I can say if I want to have an else, I don't have to. If I want to have an else, and this will execute if all three of the previous conditions fail, then I can say print ski. And the only way I will get to this condition is if it's less than 35 degrees. And let's go ahead and load this. And I could do something else afterwards if I wanted to, but I don't have to. Load this, yes. And then if I say what sport, and I pass it, for example, 75, it's going to tell me to play golf. If I pass it 95, it's going to tell me to swim. If I pass it 55 or 35, it's going to tell me to hike. But if I pass it 30 or anything less than 35, it's going to tell me to ski. So that's the way the else-if statement works. Let's take a look at the if statement in the context of a couple of loops now. So let's say, for example, with strings, if I wanted to write a method to count the uppercase letters in a string. Count upper letters in a string. So I'm passing in a string variable, and I'm going to have a counter that I'm going to initialize to 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop over all the letters in the string, and we've done this before when we've reversed or done mirror or something like that. So I'm just going to loop over all of the characters in the string. For ch in string, I'm going to say if ch is in, we can test to see if it's in. I'm sorry, not if it's in. If ch is greater than or equal to an A, an uppercase A, so I can use the relational operators with characters there, and ch is less than or equal to a Z. So if it's between an uppercase A and an uppercase Z inclusive, so there's an example using the logical operator, and you just put it between the two Boolean conditions. If that's the case, then I want to count the letter, count plus 1, and then at the end I'm going to return my counter. So this is just an example of using an if statement and a loop, which we'll do with our images. I'm going to load that, and so now I can say count upper with how are you today, question mark, and it's going to tell me that there are 5 uppercase letters in that string, which is correct. So that's just a couple of examples using if statements. We'll be using them to check the values of pixels in our images in order to convert them to sepia tone in order to remove red eye in a picture. So we'll check to see if the value is red, and we'll change the value to do color replacement, and then also to do posterization. So those are if statements.